You're so silly.
Hello, and welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics. And sometimes you just watch me say nothing for a second. I'm here with my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago.
Happy Friday, guys. Glad you're here. Mac's going to start us off with a very special announcement before we start. So I'm going to let
call it special. I got some sad
an
news.
unspecial, boring, normal announcement.
Right. Well, this one's kind of sad. I mean, for those of you who don't know, if you can't catch it from the sound of our title, I like superhero shit. Fun to me. And Christy. You can see her superhero stuff in the back. You can see mine. So I'm pretty bummed to hear that Chadwick Boseman, the guy who plays Black Panther in the movies, just died at 43. He was battling colon cancer for 4 years. So super sad. I just saw that before I went live and I was like, fuck. So that really sucks. So I wanted to let everyone know that because it really does suck.
A powerhouse of talent, that's for sure.
Yeah, he was really awesome. I don't know how they're gonna square that in the movies or whatever, but really that's too bad. Not just because he was a good actor, but I mean friends, family.
Yeah,
that really matters for him.
So young. So I'm 40.
So what?
I'm 43.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yep.
And hello everybody in chat as well.
Oh yes.
Lots of amazing people, including my pops.
Oh.
Stacy says hi, Dad. Everybody loves when my pops shows up. He's a good time and very supportive for sure. Okay, is there anything else that you want to touch on?
No, I don't want to touch anything else right now. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it.
Good call, Mac. You're not silly or anything. I think you put your extra silly pants on today. Or do you have any pants on?
That's
the question.
You know exactly where I was going to go with that.
That's funny.
That's what makes us such good friends.
I did watch the RNC just as I watched the DNC, though I do feel like I watched more individual parts of the RNC more than I did the DNC. I didn't feel like a second run through or even a third run through was appropriate for any of the guests during the DNC. I got it the first time. It was fluffy, flowery words. But some of them made me just the first time around when it was done, I had to put my jaw back up. And then the second time around, I listened to what they had to say and tried to ignore the, whatever the awkward or weird or yelling thing they were doing, whatever that was. I tried to ignore that and just hear the words. Yeah, I'll never get that time back. I feel like it was a reality TV show version of the RNC. I do want to quote you, what a few of the guests have said word for word, and then I'll give you my analysis from a humanist perspective. One of them, quote, "Trump is the bodyguard of Western civilization," end quote. I just, seriously, I really don't have anything as far as a humanist perspective or a human perspective. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and he's not protected the citizens of this country. In 4 years, more people have died under his watch here in the States. All right, another one. Quote, "Trump was elected to protect our families from the vengeful mobs releasing violent criminals from prisons," end quote. they must not read the policies that are put forth, because criminal to redo, like we want to do we want to have criminal reform. We're not talking about violent prisoners or violent people. What we're saying is people who are in there for drug or marijuana charges and don't have a violent charge or even other charges that have nothing to do with anything other than a drug charge. They shouldn't be in prisons next to people who are violent. That's what we're saying. And I don't see how anybody with a heart wouldn't agree with that, unless you had stocks in private prisons, or your family benefited off private prisons, you or your husband or your wife or your cousin or a friend works at a private prison, then I can see, you'd have some personal experience to back up that bias. But
Yeah,
there are more of us that don't. I'm sorry.
I think it's really, I don't know. It's a little bit like expected to me when like you have the political party that doesn't really look at why we have certain laws.
Oh no, yeah, definitely.
Right. So to them it's just like they are criminals. All right, well, what made them a criminal? Doesn't matter. They're in jail. They probably belong there. It's very, I feel like this is me a little bit making a mockery of them, but also like for like the majority of Republicans and a lot of Democrats too, like when you're just looking at um, the idea of criminals, like they look at it very like simplistically, and when you do that, this is what we get, right? We just get, well, they are criminals. Why should we let criminals vote? They're all bad guys. They're obviously awful people. Like there's really no thought put into it, and
No,
that's
there's
the
not
problem. That there's
at
no
all,
thought put
because
into it.
you got to think the people that are saying stuff like that also have tried cocaine and marijuana, and probably do it even on a, every time they go out kind of thing, or every weekend they have wine and a couple joints. But they're okay with someone they don't know being in prison and not being able to pay for a bond to get out. They're only being held in there until their trial because they don't have bond to get out. They're okay with that. And that, I think that's, there's you know I don't understand that. So I do have to step back and acknowledge that they don't have the information. They don't have the data. They aren't able to, fact check the claims that are made to them, and see that they're not factual. And that I think that I do believe in people. There are people who are too far gone. That is true. But for the most part, I do believe that if people stumble upon information that contradicts what they believe, and it's enough that it bugs them, they'll look into it further. Now, a lot of people will look into doubling down, and there is definitely any information you are looking for to confirm any bias you might have, you will find on the on the internet. It's having media literacy, a way of understanding what is a source, and how to find sources, and how to make sure that many different sources are confirming this. And a PhD does not, make evolutionary biologists when it comes to people trying to disprove evolution. So that's the same with politics. There are going to be people who have zero uh, background or experience in certain departments trying to debunk what that department stands for. And I heard people saying, I heard Marxist radical or radical Marxist more than I heard anything about Republican or conservative. It was radical Marxist. Joe Biden's a radical Marxist, and the agenda is a radical Marxist, and they want to take away the American dream. Uh,
It's just
uh,
Karl Marx, like incarnate, isn't he? Like that's what I heard. I thought we all like
Joe
all got
Biden is,
like around a table and like did a
he's a
summit. Joe
Republican.
Biden was like, poof.
Oh, yes. All
He's a
right, this
real
was
leftist.
from Tanya Wineries, right? Um, Donald Trump Jr.'s girlfriend, one of their girlfriends, the one who yelled the whole time. Please tell
Kelly,
me you know what I'm talking
isn't
about.
it Kelly? Like Kelly something? Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Um,
Yeah. I was right about something.
I will get to her. This is someone else. This woman in particular says local businesses are under assault by riots. This is Tanya Wineries. And these local businesses are now facing the terrible prospect of Joe Biden coming after everything we've got and built. That's a claim, and none of this was followed up with, and this is how we know he's coming after everything that we've built. They just, it was very different than the Democratic convention. It was scary, almost like I said, like a reality TV. If reality TV stars could take over the government. Matt Gaetz of Florida. I'm in Florida, so one of my representatives. Quote, it's a horror film, really. They'll disarm you, empty the prisons, lock you in your home, and invite MS-13 to live next to you. And the police aren't coming when you call. Nightmares are coming real. Cops killed, children shot, violence in our neighborhoods. What? Where does he live that this is what he's seeing? And I want to say also that Donald Trump Jr. ran an ad when he was speaking, after he was speaking, during he was speaking.
Don't pretend like he can add.
It's a political ad. And in this political ad, he talks about all this rioting that's going on, and he shows footage of rioting. But if you read the police vest, they don't say police how we spell it. It's a video from France, from 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 protests in France. It's not even here. And so I thought that was pretty relevant, because how could anybody miss that, using foreign countries' protests as fear tactics, that will be here because it was on federal buildings in a wealthy neighborhood. Uh, so wrong. So wrong. And then I also wanted to add it real quick to that the whole time throughout the RNC, I kept hearing, against the radical Marxists who want to destroy everything. They're going to come and take your guns. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. It was scare, 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 scare. When they did show pictures of protests, they were always during times when they would say, this is Joe Biden's America. Don't vote for Joe Biden if you don't want more of this rioting, looting. But those videos are made of Trump's America during Trump's 4 years. So you're scaring people about a future that hasn't happened, and you have no evidence that this will happen. But it is happening right now under Trump's America, in Trump's America. And nobody's saying, hey, look, this is Trump's America. How do you feel about it? They're saying, be scared of Joe Biden's America, because there'll be more looting and rioting. And it'll look like what's going on right now. That was odd, like I said. Jim Gordon says, let me wet my whistle. Look at what's happening in American cities. Crime, violence, and mob rule. Democrats refuse to denounce the mob, and their response to the chaos, defund the police. Democrats won't let you go to church, but they'll let you protest. Democrats won't let you work, but they'll let you riot. Democrats won't let you go to school, but they'll let you loot. My humanist perspective of this is, again, it has to be one of two things. One is the information he is getting and the people surrounding him, the people he keeps in his circle, are in a bubble. And he honestly feels like these words are true. And he feels like he has to do everything he can because he's terrified. And that makes me sad. But number two is actually really fucked up. He knows that this isn't true. It doesn't have anything to stand on as far as they won't let you work. Everybody that I know is still working just about. Go to church. I live in the South. Church is open every Sunday. I So he knows these things aren't true and he's using them to scare and fear. And fear propaganda works better than anything else when people are unsure about their future. And let me call on a classmate, Mac. He was raising his hand.
My hand in the back. All right, so something I want to point out because it always bothers me. You said that that they had said that the Democrats won't let them work, and they won't let them work. Now,
right, think about that.
Just taking one example. My dad is a Republican, or he's conservative. Right. I don't think he would say he is Republican. He works at a tire factory, and he makes decent money there. He's been there for a long time. But this conservative, hard-working factory worker has enjoyed his time off. Kind of doesn't want to go back to work. Just saying. So I think, honestly, it is more accurate to say that the Republicans want to force you to work, and the Democrats.
I know it's split down the middle because not all Democrats.
Right? No, it's not.
A war going on inside the Democratic Party for sure.
There is. So, but my point is, though I can't find the words to say about what the Democrats want you to do about work, it is more accurate to say that the Republican Party wants to force you to work. Right. Like no matter what, right? That this is a pandemic. We should be.
That's why they haven't helped financially. Because if they keep doing that, eventually people will have to take whatever job, and now they have the upper hand. So, yeah.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say the Democrats would make you work the way that the Republicans have been so gung-ho about. You know, people need to go back to work. School needs to open back up. But I do feel like, not that I am an advocate for Biden, but I do feel like the Democratic Party would handle this better, this pandemic better. They would do what is safest and suggest what the science tells us is safest. And then I think the Democrats are also softies and will also let states' rights to, decide what they do and don't do for their citizens, which that makes me like, so it's okay to use the federal government to kidnap people who are protesting, but it's not okay to do good things. Got it. All right. Two people I want to talk about, the McCloskeys, Patricia and her husband, the two gun-toting, mansion-living alt-righters who pointed guns at peaceful protesters. One gun was a handgun, the other was a semi-auto. Both threatened to use their guns on protesters. Now, this protest was a legal one. It was set to go down the street and other streets that it went down. It wasn't doing anything illegal. And they were chanting very loudly, and these two were out in their yard pointing their guns, saying, if you come up here, nobody was, if you come up here, I will shoot you. If you step a foot in my yard, I will shoot you. If you hurt my property, I will shoot you. That's illegal. You can't just point your gun at people. That's like me walking outside my apartment complex and then waiting for people to come get their mail and put a gun at them. If you touch my mailbox, I'll shoot you. Like I will get arrested. You cannot do these things. Okay, so these two both threatened to use their guns on protesters as they marched and chanted by their mansion. Patricia and her husband have been charged, and they're seriously very butthurt about how the laws are protecting the innocent, and in this case in particular. The march was a legal one, like I stated. These two spoke at the RNC, which just says so much. It says so much. They spoke at the RNC and are actively saying that they want the protesters to be arrested and are flabbergasted that they are the ones who actually broke the laws. Anarchy and radical Marxists are words that I heard through the entire RNC. This is not going to work. Saying that, Biden is an anarchist and a socialist and a Marx, that's not going to work, because the younger generations have computers and phones in their hands, and they look up these ideologies and they read about them, and that's not anything Biden is. Biden is a neoliberal. He has been. He is conservative. It's just not going to work on the educated and the young. So I'd say anybody under 40s, especially who pay attention, it's just not going to work. So I want to say that fear, like I said, is the constant narrative throughout this election year's 2020 RNC convention. Fear in every way they tried to sell it, just like this couple who held guns on protesters. Tells the camera, quote, these radicals aren't satisfied with just marching in the streets. They want to take over. So be very afraid. Be very afraid. Trump's the one who can save you from a Black Lives Matter takeover. Like, I'm trying to figure out, be very afraid. It was Black Lives Matter protesting. They're not trying to take over. And I don't know where they would even get that narrative unless they're those two things I said before. Either they don't understand, and I feel very sorry for them, and I feel like we have a lot to do to help as many people as we can be a little bit more informed and a little bit more skeptical, so that they're curious about these things. Or two, they know this and they're using it to fear so that they can continue to be or think that they are in the ruling class. Then the wife says with a straight face, quote, they're not satisfied with the chaos and violence into our communities. They want to abolish the suburbs altogether. Claim, I need citations for that, to bring crime, lawlessness, and low quality apartments into our communities, into our now thriving suburban neighborhoods, is what she said. No matter where you live, your family will not be safe. We don't have basic safety and security in our communities. What? And the husband then says, quote, the mob will try to destroy you. So, oh, they're gods. It was like watching, I don't know, like a what is it, Purge? Like if they took the story of Purge and went back like 20 years before it even was thought of, how people started to talk. I know I'm being hyperbolic, but still. And then it was Kimberly Guilfoyle, who is the one who yelled. Sorry.
You should be.
She yelled at me the whole entire time she was talking her face off. Like I was being yelled at, and then with a smile, The whole time
I was
I
gonna
felt
say,
like,
but she smiled.
oh my God, your face, man. And then I more with her was fighting the tragedy of anarchy and communism. So she didn't have any substance at all. I didn't hear any substance. What I heard was fear and a lot of things about showing the horrible things that are going on right now and saying you'll have more of this in Biden's America, which blew me away because that's not how logic works. But the last 4 years have been you, Trump, and this is your America right now. I can't even do an honest analysis of whatever that was of Donald Trump Jr. I I think anybody could watch it or they couldn't get through it. A lot of people couldn't even get through it. It was just a son who is Donald Trump Jr. So I don't know. It was reality TV level crap, no substance, zero policy talk from anyone. Now, I do want to reiterate that there was zero policy talk from the DNC as well. Donald Trump Jr. spoke as if he was tweeting the entire time. I cringed. American exceptionalism propaganda was what he was doing. And, they've been in charge, like I said, for the last 4 years. This isn't a Biden's America we're seeing, it's a Trump's America. And then the last one is a woman who went viral before she was on the RNC. She apparently has she calls them her white nerdy kids and her black kid. And she feels that it's perfectly acceptable if her black son and her white nerdy kids were walking down the street and a cop was driving by, if he felt, because there are statistics, if he felt them in his head, the statistics show that prisons are more full of black and brown people than they are of white, then obviously that cop should be on more high alert to her black son than he would be towards her white son. She doesn't have a problem with that. She doesn't find that racist at all. However, if the cops treated them wrong, that's where she would have a problem with it. But she went into it a lot further. You guys can look her up. It's gross. She did it from her living room, just a regular person like you and I. And I think about her son, all of them. One group, her white nerdy kids, hearing that they don't have anything to worry about because there's not as many of them in prisons, but you do. And if the cops look at you, or you know, racial profile you, racially profile. There we go. You, your mom is okay with it because there is something about your skin color that makes you more likely to commit crime. Like I that blew my mind. The poor group of people who got nationalized and became citizens, yay, they had no clue that they were part of this White House propaganda. They weren't told that they were going to be during the RNC or part of any of this narrative. So there's that. I'm sure they're just glad, that they're American, and congratulations and welcome to the country, my fellow brothers and sisters. However, they didn't know. So it was a setup. I'm curious to read how you guys feel about the RNC. If you watched it, if you only listened to this tonight, what you think about. I feel like it's just, you can only go so far right, and the Overton window has just gone further and further and further. Reagan, then gosh, Clinton took the Democratic Party and took it from a workers' party to a corporate party. It's just going further and further. It, Once you go so far right, the next thing, the only thing is fascism. So if they want to run on fear, how about a little factual fear? Yeah. I'm glad everybody's so happy right now.
Right? Oh
Yes.
my goodness.
Yes. Stuck between a
Yeah,
rock and a hard place.
we are. And like I didn't watch the RNC stuff because
It
like
was hard.
yeah,
I thought I was being tortured.
it was kind of funny. Some of it was, but I kind of didn't have the time. I didn't have the energy.
Yeah.
And like the DNC, it's just so extravagant, right? Like
Well, this one was.
with yeah. And so
Yeah.
like with with the DNC, it's just like, hey, there are troubles. There are troubles. There are troubles. It's like, oh my God, can you stop smiling, please?
Yeah.
And with the RNC, it's just like Democrats want to kill you. They want to fucking kill you.
Yes. One
They
of the
want
guys
to kill us all. Like, oh God,
One of them said that Joe
please
Biden
stop.
is waiting in the dark to kill your unborn babies. Joe Biden, his words, like, and with a serious face. And I
Who
did want
said
to
that?
add, in case you guys didn't know, this was done at the White House, which does violate the Hatch Act, which is unconstitutional. And I do not feel like Trump will face any issues on this. I just don't. Any other president would. They would take it seriously because that's what you do. You're supposed to lead by example. And if you're the top, you know, of the military, the top of law and order, you're the president, you should lead by example. However, they had thousands of people. There were a few masks, but they sat shoulder to shoulder. And yeah, they didn't mention how many people had died. If they did, I might have missed that part. And if they did, that was all they really said about it. They did talk about it during the DNC, and I appreciate that because it's we've lost a lot of people.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what they say. Jesus died for your sins, but you'll all die for Trump's. Sorry, that was a tweet of God. I needed to slip one in there this week. That was the one.
Yeah, goofball.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Talking about Mac.
So what?
She's almost asleep over there, and she's like laughing. Mac's ridiculous.
I'm glad.
Actually, God. That's God. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. Are we ready? Are we ready to move on already?
We are.
I mean, it's only been 30 minutes. All right.
Well,
for hours, Mac.
our
All right.
president
Well, I'll take
talked
back
for
my.
over,
I'll take it back.
our president talked for over 70 minutes last night.
Man,
Just blah 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 blah.
did he look high?
Not as high as his son and his woman. Woo!
Yeah. Yeah.
They were zooted, yeah.
Yeah, they were on some uppers. Yeah.
Okay, take it away, bro.
All right. Let me see. Okay. So next topic. Where are you? I think I didn't want to do it like this, but I think I'm going to. I wanted to kind of talk about like the political spectrum a bit and like try to help everyone figure out where they are. But I didn't get to that because I wanted to start with the economy and then do the politics, but I think I'm gonna have to separate them. And I think if it's okay with Christy and Nacha, if this goes well tonight, I might just do this for the next couple of weeks, just a where are you economically, where are you politically, where are you philosophically on morals, because I want to do a moral one too. And I think this is a good thing to do right now during the time of an election, because anyone who is putting forward policies during their campaign, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, it should maybe help you vote, because we here, more than any political party, we like to say, hey, vote by principle, right? See what your principles want you to vote for. So if I can try to help you figure out where you are on some topics, that's what I'd like to do. Okay, so here we go. I'm just gonna go over economics a little bit, like what they are, a few different kind of choices that we have just set forward, because I'm sure that not everyone in our small audience really understands a ton about economics. So I just want to give you like a little brief overview, and I hope you guys appreciate it and like it. Before we get like started, I want to there are like three big questions that you need to answer to build an economy. And I think there are some more questions to add onto these, but the three big ones that I found are what to produce, how to produce it, and who gets it. And I wanted to start with that because one, it is kind of obvious. But two, when we talk about economics, we tend to blend politics with them, which is fine because they go hand in hand. But also, if you're trying to just talk about economics, you really do just need to talk about the means of production. Because, well, obvious reasons. Focus on one topic at a time. That's why I decided to do a political one like next week or something. So what do we have for economics? I have a few definitions for us, and I will add on to each one afterwards. So I went with capitalism, socialism, and communism because those are like the three big like basic economies. So here we go. I'm going to define my terms real quick. The first one is capitalism, an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state. Socialism is a political and economic theory of social organization which advocates that the means of production, distribution, and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. And communism, a political theory derived from Karl Marx, advocating class war and leading to a society in which all property is publicly owned and each person works and is paid according to their abilities and needs. So each one is decently different from each other. And I think it is pretty fair to say that socialism really is the middle ground there. When you're just talking about economics. Because in capitalism, you want profit and individualism. Like you want individual property and you want a lot of it. You want as much profit and property as you can get for yourself. That's the drive of a capitalist system. For a socialist kind of system, again, just speaking about economy, you would want, well, you kind of still want some drive, like you have like a profit motive still, but it's more leveled out. There's still competition, there's still ownership, but it's more fair. And Christy's snacking. We see you, Christy. I mean, I see you. Me and not just see you. No. All right. So that said, again, the reason that it's more fair, in quotations, depending on who's making it fair, is because it is regulated. It is a planned economy. And then communism is the furthest away from capitalism, where you really want to get rid of as much individual property and profit motive as you possibly can. So everything is public. So the way I was thinking about it earlier, because I was trying to think of a way to sum it up in a really easy way. And I'm not sure if I have it nailed down yet, but when you're making vehicles, because that's a decent one. So you make a bunch of vehicles for capitalism, and you have different companies making cars, trucks, vans, whatever, to compete with each other to try to drive down the price that they can sell for in a free market. That's what they say. And then you want to sell them for the most amount of profit you can, but actually being able to sell them at the same time, make a profit off of all of these cars that you built. So the individuals who made these vehicles or got the means of production to make these vehicles make the most profit. And socialism, you would do kind of the same thing, except the people who got the means of production for these vehicles, well, they don't get any more than the workers who are doing the labor to sell these cars, make these cars, and sell these cars. So the workers have much more say in how much they make, how they, like, what the quality is, and who they sell them to, and how they distribute the profit. And then communism, for the same thing, is everyone works together. There is really no CEO, because like just the government or the community as a whole gets the means of production. They all work together, they make these vehicles, and then they use all of those vehicles for themselves, and any extra that they need, they can sell as a community, as a state, as a country, and they take that profit to make more things or put it into something else for the community again as a whole. So you use every car on the lot. You just kind of trade, do whatever you want, like you just use what you need, which is cool and fine, whatever. So you can see just by talking about vehicle production and putting them on a lot, they are different, like they have different motives. So I'll expand a little more. There are two different kinds of economies. There are market economies, which are also referred to as a free market economy, and that would be an economic system in which prices are determined by unrestricted competition between privately owned businesses. And a planned economy, or a command economy, is an economy in which production, investment, prices, and incomes are determined centrally by like a government, or not just controlled, but regulated by a government. So again, a free market economy, if you're talking to like Milton Friedman, this is what he advocates for, is just like, get the government completely out of anything that we like buy and sell, make whatever. Let individual companies, CEOs, like run their businesses, make prices for themselves, compete on their own, and
and step back and watch the monopolies happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was going to make that in my next sentence.
Yes. Friedman.
So yeah, Friedman. So a command economy or planned economy allows for a free market economy to function,
Yeah.
but puts regulations on it. So you don't get monopolies.
Yes.
And so you get fair wages,
Yes.
and that you get fair hours. All right. So those three are big ones. You can expand more on it. So, and also, so like, you like keep jobs in a certain area. So like you can't make as much money as you want and then just like run off to China, and make more of a profit there or something like that. Right. So basically a planned economy is a market economy that is regulated. And a market economy is more referred to as a free market economy, which you want as little regulation as possible so you can make as much profit as possible. And that's not bogged down by paying your slaves, employees, too much,
Uh-huh.
or Freudian slip, Friedman slip, okay, or
Really.
or bogged down by environmental regulations or anything like that, really. Anything you can think of where you have to put a regulation on a company, or just the market in general, that's what a planned economy is for. Between the two, I was going to say that, like, well, you can have a mixed economy, but you can just have a planned economy, which is real strict or not really strict. And you don't really need to call it a mixed economy in that sense, right? So between those two, it really is just a command or a free market economy. Does that sound right to you, Christy? Did I explain that part at
Yeah,
least well
and
enough?
there's lots of, I mean, it's on a sliding scale of,
Mm-hmm.
yes, unfettered
Definitely.
capitalism all the way to completely controlled. So yeah, there's lots in the middle. I would say that socialism in the workplace would be, to me, as far as I understand it, and I think that I understand it well and can explain it well, is democracy in the workplace. There's
Yes.
still a boss, there's still CEOs, just the entire workplace votes on these things. And if your boss, at the end of their 2 years or year, however you do it, isn't sufficient, the company can talk amongst themselves and vote them out. And also, they're not allowed to make, only a few times, 2 times more than the lowest payer. So if they want to give them a raise, themselves a raise, they have to also raise the lowest, paid worker in there. And
Yep.
worker co-ops would be more of like communism, but it's okay to, within a capitalist mixed economy, have sections of this type of communism. I love worker co-ops or garden co-ops where a neighborhood gets together and says, out of this 10 row of houses, that 10 house roses, that row of 10 houses, and that one, 3 or 4 in the middle of each row is going to be a community garden. So people are going to be giving up their front yards. However, we're all going to pitch in and we're going to grow our own food for the neighborhood and teach our kids how to do this. And everybody goes in on it and everybody benefits from it. Everybody helps clean up in it. That would be a type of, the same as
Yeah.
democracy in the workplace as socialism. I think it's just going a little bit further because communism in the workplace would be, there would be no boss. Everybody is the boss. Everybody takes home the same amount of shares. And that's a utopia and nobody expects that would
Yeah.
ever happen in our lifetime or someone else's, but it doesn't mean that it's not a beautiful thing and that we shouldn't work towards a better society at all times. So I think that's
Right.
probably the way we feel about them. Yes, we know they're unattainable right now. It doesn't mean that they're not better and we shouldn't work for them.
Excuse me. Woo. Um, so what I wanted to add to that, um, just before I forget.
No, don't forget.
I don't want to forget. Okay. Um, so in capitalism, like what we have now, we have unions. And we also have right to work laws, which work against unions, right? Because of the kind of capitalism that we have. You need a union to try to make what the workers get out of their job more fair, because the people at the top of most companies make way more than the employees of a company. And not only that, they also choose the means of production, right? Like Christy was saying, socialism is a good definition for it is democracy in the workplace. So, and like a more unfettered capitalism, like whoever owns the company or owns the most stock in it, like they make the decisions, which could make the employees look bad, right? Or feel bad, like especially if they're not, if they don't regulate their pollution output. And that's something important to the community around them, because if the company looks bad like that, then the employees look bad like that, and that hurts the community and the reputation of those workers as a whole, especially if they need that job, because the company could lose money, and who's the first to get hit? Well, it's not going to be the people at the top, because they can make sure it's not the people at the top. They'll make sure it's the people at the bottom. So where I'm going with that is when you get to socialism, it's like the union kind of controls the company, or at least half of it. All right. They like actually control half of the company at least. And then communism, you absolutely don't need a union, because there just isn't, there's no need that there's no one for them to fight against, except like you could just make multiple unions, and then
Right. There's no hierarchy in true
right.
communism. And that's what a lot of Americans get wrong about it. They think communism, authoritarianism, one ruler that's going to dictate. And I'm like,
it's against communism.
No.
Yeah. So that's another really good way, I think, because it kind of helps me think of what the difference is between capitalism, socialism, and communism. Is how much of a union do you need? So yeah. Anyways, there's that. Do you have anything to add, Christy, to that?
Had to find my unmute button. No, you did a really good job. I think that learning about economics as an adult, as opposed to mandated about the stuff we had to take on a test on Friday in school, is so much different. You know, I can actually follow what I'm interested in. And when you're really interested in something, or a teacher is really good at teaching, you find that you can't get enough of it. And you just realize, oh, wow, I actually can answer a lot of questions. If I hear someone talking and I wonder how this happens, I can be like, oh my gosh, let me tell you, which is really awesome. I like to know things. And the economy, learning about the economy wasn't just a fun thing to do. It's been very helpful of helping me understand the world around me and how things work, the history of economics in this country, the history of economics in England and France. They make a massive impact in how I understand the world, how I understand revolutions and depressions. And it's really important to learn the history of economics. And a good teacher to start with is Professor Richard Wolff. And you can, if you don't want to buy anything from him, he's written many books. You can listen to his weekly podcast, Economic Update, or you can listen to what I love, his lectures, because they're long. He's feisty. If someone says something, he has no problem. He's not one of those docile professors that just kind of lets it go. He replies back, and then also tells them it's not the time for questions or comments. So, you know, if he has a problem with that, he doesn't have to stay. I love his no bullshit attitude. And he also spent his entire life studying to be an economist and to teach it at some of the best colleges. It took him being curious and skeptical about, well, I'm skeptical about this. I doubt this stuff, and so I'm curious and I want to find out. And I'm kind of curious why, now I'm learning I should find the argument to things that I agree with. Like, it's interesting. Maybe I can change my mind. And he never read counter to capitalism, anything counter to capitalism, nothing that definitely made it look bad. I mean, that was not on the reading list at all. And traveling around, he realized that that was on the reading list of every college student, many high school students in other countries when it came to economics, and that many of the books start with, capital, das Kapital, or capital. And it is a boring book. It is. It took me a while to get through, and it's very small just because it doesn't hold my interest. But when I got done, I do have to say that it made a big difference. And then hearing someone like Professor Wolf go over it, and he is such a good teacher, not boring at all, riveting. So it helps those ideas that I originally, heard, the reasons why some of these claims of capitalism should be looked at, and actually found out if the claim is true. Those things are important. And if they're not, we should stop believing that they are. And I found that fascinating. And my answer to was it or wasn't it, I don't know. So I guess I need to go find out. What I found out made me a democratic socialist. So there's that. It's important to challenge your own beliefs.
It is. Um, and yeah, Nacha, I think that's right.
Yes, Nacha, that's my man.
Yeah. Thanks for putting that in the chat. So I want to, I had a little bit more that I didn't quite share yet. So I'm going to add just a little bit more to this, and then give you guys a quick little challenge. And
I will let you.
Oh, thank you. So, um, so I wanted to define a few more things real quick. A product market and a resource market. In a product market is the marketplace in which a final good or service is bought and sold. A product market does not include trading in raw or intermediate materials, and instead focuses on finished goods purchased by consumers, businesses, and the public sector and foreign buyers. And then a resource market is a marketplace for the exchange of labor, financial capital, or raw materials. Many personnel managers need to tap into the job resource market rather than promoting from within the company in order to obtain qualified employees during times of substantial business expansion. All right, so I got those from like the businessdictionary.com, and I thought they were important to include here because the product market and the resource market kind of like work in a circle, right? So how this works is there are households and there are businesses. There are like industries, right? And the industries sell products to households, and then the households buy those products, and the money goes back to the company. And they also, the household sells their labor to the companies, right? And it kind of rotates a bit. I had a graphic. Let me pull up on my own real quick because I'm forgetting one little piece. It's pretty much that though. So yeah. So I wanted to define the product market and the resource market, going back up any part of the video afterwards to like look at my definitions, or Google them yourself. That's fine, because I Googled dictionary them. And I want you, this is the challenge for the week, is I want you to answer those first big 3 questions, which is what to produce, how to produce it, and who gets it, who gets the product. And I would like to know what your answers are if you're building an economy, just those 3 basic questions. And hopefully that will give you an idea of how you prefer to run an economy. Because I think that's important. Like, I can't tell you what to think, and I'm not going to try. You know what Christy and I think, for the most part, that's cool. But try to answer those 3 questions by yourself. And if you feel like after you've answered those 3 questions, then expand on it. Like, dig into it just a little bit. Look at communism a little more, but look at it from like the viewpoint of a communist. Look at capitalism from like Milton Friedman, and then like look at socialism with like Richard Wolff. Like, go to like a source like that, because you'll hear the counters to socialism and communism from like Friedman. You'll hear the counters to capitalism from Wolff. And then if you go to like American Johnson, he's an anarcho-capitalist, which is a good kind of capitalist, I think. Or I'm sorry, not capitalist, communist, anarcho-communist. He's really awesome. He does a really good job at explaining communism, for sure.
Noam Chomsky is an anarcho-socialist.
Yeah. Yep. And that's a non-compete for American Johnson. If you want to look,
I love non-compete. Non-compete is a channel you guys should all be subscribed to.
Absolutely. He's one of the best communist channels that there are. Maybe the best. So yeah, please answer those 3 questions. What to produce,
I think that,
how to produce it.
To answer your questions,
yeah,
if they watch, it's on YouTube for free. Put it on, put headphones on, and clean your house or whatever. Listen. You don't have to watch. Understanding Marxism by Richard Wolff, just the lecture. He does it many times, so it doesn't matter which one you catch. Listen to that. You'll be able to answer those 3 questions Mac just gave you all on your own, because he really breaks down what those 3 things are in that lecture with a big whiteboard. And he's real sloppy when he writes. And he's the like college professor everyone wishes they had.
I'm gonna go ahead and like look that up for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, Understanding Marxism by Richard Wolff.
It's 2 hours long.
Mm-hmm. It's education,
which is fine for us.
It's in a college classroom. He videotaped a college class, a college lecture.
Yeah. So again, look up on YouTube Understanding Marxism, and I am copying the link right now, so you can open that. But under it is one of his economic updates, which is only 30 minutes long. So
or less.
Yeah, it's like 24 seconds off of 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's
that's
between
like
27 minutes and 30 minutes every week.
Yeah. And then under that is political theory, Karl Marx from School of Life. School of Life does wonderful almost always. And then under that is Crash Course, which is also amazing. I can't remember what they said in that, but I don't remember hating it.
It was good.
So I'm sure it's good. So those first 4 links, if you just type in Understanding Marxism and your YouTube. They should be really good. Any of those are really good resources. And again, they're good resources because they're fair to the position that they're trying to defend, right? You don't want someone to tell you what a position is and knock it down at the same time, because then you don't really know what their position is.
Right. And I think that the best one to break that particular topic, and a few others when it comes to economics, when it comes to economics on the left, I think that Richard Wolff, to me, really, he has a gift of communications. You know how we love our atheist communicators and science communicators. They're not necessarily a scientist, but they're a good science communicator, like Bill Nye.
Yeah.
I think that he is definitely a great communicator, but he's also beyond prepared to present that, and he knows it so well that he can make it seem easy. And if someone can understand political theory easy enough that within a lecture you're like, oh wait, I kind of get like all the stuff that I was like, why wasn't I told any of this? This makes so much sense. Why wasn't this taught in our schools? I don't understand. I really feel like if you're like me, I listened to that particular one twice within 1 week the first time I ever listened to it. I just was so thinking about it for the next couple days. I wanted to hear it again and take some notes so I could look some things up. And that started a journey of me becoming, that was right around the time that I messaged Mac at like 3:00 in the morning and said, I think I'm like way more left than I thought I was. Yeah. That was a good time.
Yeah.
Like I'm starting to understand things that were never taught to me. So how could I understand them? But now that I'm learning them, but I also did look into, the argument against it. I know all about Friedman, and I can get why people would fall for that if they never knew about anything else.
Yeah.
Right. But I do now, and I can't unknow it. So.
Right. And one thing I want to make really, really clear is I picked these three specifically because they are said to be economic systems. They're also they also have more ideology attached to them. But if you look at just the economic definitions and how they run an economy, that's what's important. If you're looking at what your economic views are, just focus on that. If someone says that you're a communist, so you hate religion and all this stuff and all like killed Jews, blah blah blah. Okay,
nothing to do with it. That's
nothing to do with it whatsoever. Also, that was state capitalism. Also, that's a political thing, right? There's more political ideologies attached to that. So don't take the negative connotations that don't have to do with how to run an economy. You can be grossly anti-religious and have a really good economic view, or a really bad one. Yep. Doesn't matter. You can be super Christian and have a really good economic view, or a really bad one. Doesn't fucking matter. They don't, like, they work hand in hand often, but they're not exclusive. That's the point that I really wanted to try to make tonight. And that reminds me that I missed a couple definitions, so that stinks. And I will give this real quick because this is important. So under capitalism, I had two more definitions, and one is venture capitalism, and the definition here is startup companies with a potential to grow need a certain amount of investment. Wealthy investors like to invest their capital in such businesses with a long-term growth perspective. This capital is known as venture capital, and the investors are called venture capitalists. So this is
a legal way of laundering money.
A legal way of laundering money. And a non-labor way to make more money. So this is like on Fox Business, Fox News. I can only hear the guy's accent, can't remember his name. He tries to
I know
link
what you're
them
talking
together.
about.
Yeah. When he's worried about socialism, he's worried about people being lazy, one. And so he's worried about a meritocracy, working your way to earn as much money as you can. But he also sprinkles in there, because it's equal somehow, how hard you work to make money and how much you invest, right? Spend money to make money. But that's not quite the same. Like if someone has a lot of money and you can invest and make money, that's not the same as someone working really hard.
He's talking about people that were born on third base.
Yeah.
Not people who weren't born on the diamond yet. No, we're talking about people who are benched, right? Who haven't even made it out there yet. It's not fair. It's not the same.
Right. And that's something that can be controlled in a command or planned economy, that you can or can't invest, and what those rules are when you can. So that's what venture capitalism is. So it's capitalism. It's like another sect of capitalism for those who are really wealthy already. Or who have a little, it's like what the stock market is basically.
They need a place to put their money so that they do not have to pay as high of taxes.
Yes. And also,
and a place that will make them money over a long time, because they have so much money. They don't need a fast return. They need a legal place to legally clean their money.
Yeah.
Change my mind.
I won't. And then the other one under capitalism is state capitalism, which is a political system in which the state has control of production and the use of capital. And then under socialism, I have state socialism, a political system in which the state has control of industries and services, which is very close to the last one that I just gave you. State capitalism, I will repeat these definitions. State capitalism is a political system in which the state has control of production and the use of capital. State socialism is the political system in which state has control of industries and services. So repeating the last parts for a third time, I apologize. State capitalism, control of production and use of capital. State socialism is control of industries and services. Really could just be the same thing, honestly. So this is what people are worried about when they say
what FDR did, right? What FDR did when he took all the car manufacturers and said, listen, you guys aren't going to make cars, you're going to make planes because we need them right now. And it's not an option and you don't have a choice.
Yeah, basically.
And they made planes and it saved our economy.
Yeah, it's a planned economy. I mean, a planned economy. Sorry, trying to make a economic pun. State capitalism and state socialism, to me, are really close to the same thing. The only difference is what kind of system you majoritively had, like with the individuality, before it went to state control. All right. So, but they basically run the same. Like capitalism can be state capitalism, state or socialism can be state socialism.
Right.
You can't have
state national capitalism as well, because we sell military weapons to other countries and we profit off that. Well, I'm sorry, private corporations profit off that.
Right. And that's a capitalistic thing. We don't get any of the, like, those means of those. We don't get free guns in this country. Yes, somehow we have more guns than people. Anyways, so please let me know what you thought down in the comments below, because I really enjoyed trying to just focus on just the concepts this week, and then trying to sum them up myself, make sure I understand it enough to spew it back out to someone else. It was good for me. I think it's important right now during an election year, and it was fun. And I think a few people down in chat already said that they really enjoyed this. So I will do
Good.
the political
I
spectrum
think that it's
next
harder
week.
for people to be able to fool you when you inform your mind with as many true ideas and beliefs as possible. And that doesn't end with like Mac just said, he loved being able to really dive into this so that he could understand it himself enough that he could explain it. And then now you guys can, invest in yourselves a little bit. And I think that when a government or a group of people or a crazy uncle on Facebook wants to debate you or talk to you or send you a propagandized message on TV, as far as the ads go, you'll be able to say, wait, that word doesn't mean that. I can't take you seriously. I think it's very important to build those, like our armor. Knowledge is powerful, and it is the only armor that us non-militarized police have is knowledge, and it's harder to fool smart people and inform people. You did a really good job, Matt.
Thank you. Tried really hard for once in my life.
It was so good. I've just been sitting here eating my pumpkin seeds, listening to you.
Is that what you're
Dinner
eating?
in a show.
Nice. Uh, um, so
Yeah,
yeah, that's all I have for you guys tonight. I'm really glad you enjoyed it, Christy. Are you excited for the political one then next week?
I am. We have Theo Radically in chat who said that they need to know those 3 questions one last time in chat so they can take a screenshot of it.
Hell yeah, my dude. I'll put them
Look at
in
you
the chat.
participating in homework. You already get a point.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me put spaces.
Yes, you get extra credit, Andrew T. You
Which
get
produce,
extra credit because I know if you did it, you'll have actually tried.
Yeah.
Enter. Yes, we have a good time. I love that I'm able to answer a couple questions here. It is a pretty good representation of our podcast, though. We do cover many topics. That's pretty normal. Me miss saying words. Sometimes we do book reports, like a book that I just finished, and it's so important that I want to share it. We go down history, we talk politics. We try to do it from a humanist perspective. We're all humans. Everybody's human. People I disagree with are human. And I have to always step back and think, can this be a issue of this other person I disagree with doesn't have the same information that I have? And if that's true, how can I even be mad at them? They don't know what I know. So maybe it's best to back up a little bit and ask questions, ask people how they know that. And then that's a good time for you to say, well, this is how I know this for myself, and be able to demonstrably show them. If they're curious, if they're not, then you know that that's not even a conversation you should be having with them. And I don't know, it's going to be really hard changing hearts and minds and growing informed, an informed populace, an informed electorate. But I think that if all of us care just enough to do something, that could make a big difference. And I would love to see you in chat again. I would love to see if you have any questions or anything you'd like us to cover. I like to do deep dives in investigative journalism and try to find things out, which is always fun. And then I do a presentation, and Mac's really good at playing devil's advocate and keeping me grounded, and he's really good at making me laugh and learning things to share. And I guess we just want to have a place where politics are you're able to talk about them here. Everybody's a person, and we want to believe as many true things as possible and let go of as many false things. And we want to create a humanist community with people who want to also educate their minds and learn new things and challenge their beliefs with counter beliefs they didn't know existed, and no propaganda, no conspiracy theories, and no childish games, except for silliness, of course. Always wear your silly pants, Talia.
Please. All right. Thank you all for joining us on another awesome Friday. Really hope you guys like the show. If you guys do like the show and you like us, me, Christy, and Nacha, maybe you would
Can't do it without him.
Going down in our doodly-doo below, clicking the link, or going right there in our chat and checking out our Patreon. Because we've had it for a long time. We don't really push it anymore. But since we're talking about like economy and investments and all that stuff, maybe you would like to invest in us, and that would be awesome. We only ask for like $1, $2, $3, $5 a week, or
a month. A month.
My pad. And yeah, it's
and if you can't, this is wonderful. Really, we love you guys showing up and spending Friday nights with us. That means
that's the most important thing.
Yes.
Yeah. If you guys have a couple bucks to throw our way, that would be really awesome. We'd appreciate it.
Mac does dance for it.
I do dance for it. And also just sharing a link on Twitter or Facebook and trying to tell your friends about us. That helps the show immensely as is. So if you can't help us financially, help us by sharing a link or just giving us a thumbs up. That always helps. We really appreciate it, guys.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Are we ready?
I think we're ready.
For God's
sake. Good night.